I'd give anything to have a resident ghost who could cook and clean and do all our chores, but I think the novelty would well and truly wear off by the time you started to find teaspoons hidden in the medicine cabinet, or the tea bags hidden behind the toilet, or your furniture rearranged. What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. You're with Chris, and today I'll be giving my spoiler-free review of The September House by Carissa Orlando. This is her first novel and was nominated in this year's Goodreads Reader's Choice Awards. So naturally I had to find out what this was all about and whether it lived up to the hype. But let's start how I always like to, with what the book is about. When Margaret and husband Hal brought the large Victorian house on Hawthorne Street for sale at a surprisingly reasonable price, they couldn't believe they finally had a home of their own. Then they discovered the hauntings. Every September, the walls drip blood. The ghosts of former inhabitants appear, and all of them are terrified of something that lurks in the basement. Most people would flee, but Margaret isn't most people. Margaret is staying. It's her house. But after 4 years, Hal can't take it anymore, and he leaves abruptly. Now he's not returning calls, and their daughter Catherine, who knows nothing about the hauntings, arrives intent on looking for her missing father. To make matters worse, September has just begun, and with every attempt Margaret and Catherine make at finding Hal, the hauntings grow more harrowing because there are some secrets that the house needs to keep. So, you know, that drew me in straight away. It piqued my curiosity, and I thought, you know, with debut authors, I'm always willing to give them a go, and I have had a pretty good track record of reading a few good books by debut authors, so I thought, why not? Let's jump into this, and just another fairly quick read that I could smash through before the end of the year. So the mystery at the heart of the novel is, where the hell is Hal? Obviously, after 3 or 4 years of these harrowing hauntings, he's had enough, and he just leaves, and we find that Margaret isn't in a real hurry to go after him, and won't bend over backwards to help find him when their daughter Catherine comes knocking. She invites herself to the house and says, "You have got to find Dad. Where the hell is he? Why haven't you been calling him?" And I like how Margaret's attitude about Hal's disappearance or his departure is explored, because she doesn't seem really concerned, and throughout the novel we get revelations in the form of gradual flashbacks that give some insight as to how she feels the way she feels, and I thought that was very, very well done. It's one of the novel's strengths. But for a debut novel, the writing is really, really good. Things moved along at a reasonable pace, and the supernatural characters were pretty original, really. I mean, you've got your stock standard ghosts and things like that, but Carissa made these very, very original and unique. And Carissa Orlando put a little bit of a blend of humour throughout the book, which to begin with, that was fine, but it began to wear a little bit thin by the end of the novel, and in particular the character of Frederica, the ghost maid. There is a lot of interaction between her and Margaret, and this ghost actually prepares meals and does all the housework and things like that. But the humour of the thing is how Frederica hides things. And you know, there's one scene where she's standing there just jiggling a tea bag in thin air and things like that, and rearranging the furniture as she sees fit. And when Catherine comes to visit, obviously it's really hard for Margaret to hide what Frederica does, because let's just say if Frederica rearranges the cushions in the lounge room and stacks them up in a pile, Catherine obviously thinks Margaret's done it, and then eventually Catherine thinks Margaret's going crazy and feels that she needs to get her help and committed. But all the while, it's the supernatural entities and the mystery of the house at the heart of the matter that eventually things rear to a head. And the relationship between Margaret and Catherine is, I found it mildly annoying. Catherine is a tantrum-throwing, uptight adolescent full of angst trapped in a 33-year-old's body, is the way I would sum her up. And Margaret doesn't really have any spine when dealing with her. It's as if she lets Catherine walk all over her. And there's also a reason for that as well, because when Catherine confronts her about the happenings in the house, like if things go missing or things are rearranged, naturally Catherine's going to think, well, Mum, why are you doing this? That's irrational. And I really like how, from Catherine's point of view, Margaret appears aloof and vague about things. And if you were on the outside looking in, you would see Margaret as being not very lucid. And naturally you would think, oh, what's wrong with you? You can't answer these questions I'm giving you. I need you committed, or I need to take you to the hospital and get you help. But there's something else happening to Margaret as to why she's appearing vague and things like that. I'm not going to spoil that here, but I thought that was very, very interesting on how Catherine's point of view worked, where the supernatural occurrences in the house were Margaret doing irrational things. So I thought that was a really good way of spooling out the story. Now, the revelations revealed as to what Hal was like in his and Margaret's life was really well done, I thought, because you think at the start of the book, what's wrong with the relationship? And then as you get snippets as you go along, you gradually get the idea of how turbulent the relationship was. That's all I'll say there. But it was a real eye-opener. And the rules that Hal put in place, and his chauvinistic views and things like that, and controlling nature was a little bit harsh, I thought. But I think the menacing presence of what was in the cellar, I think that was great. It was very, very well done, and the absence of Hal was solved very, very well. So it was a very satisfying end. The climax, even though it was very extreme and very, very graphic, it was very fast-paced. I found myself smashing through the last 50 pages of the novel, and the ending was not rushed either. Now, that's a common mistake that a lot of authors make. They rush their endings. This one, I felt a lot of closure for the supernatural characters at the end. I thought it was actually rather sweet in the final scenes, where everything is fine. Everything is going to be far from normal for a while, and yeah, it's just a nice little denouement at the end, and a revelation about Margaret's friend at the end was quite touching as well. And the end action sequence of the climax, I thought it was really good. I can't reveal too much because it'll be spoiling things, but how an entity is defeated at the end is very, very good. And the supernatural entities on the surface, they appear menacing and evil, but they're actually not. I like how it's twisted around a little bit, and just a fairly happy ending, which was really good. So I think, apart from the relationship between Catherine and Margaret was a little bit annoying, and a bit of the humour beginning to wear thin as I got further through the book, they're only mild gripes, and that's my personal tastes. It's not any detraction from the story or Carissa Orlando as an author. Complete respect for her. She wrote a really, really good book for her first book. So I'm happy to recommend this one to anyone. There are little bits and pieces in there that you'll laugh out loud to, but yeah, it was a really good read overall, and I'm glad I picked it up. So if you haven't read it already, go out and grab yourself a copy. But that is it for my spoiler-free review of The September House. Oh, and on a side note, The September House, the title, you get to know by the end why it's called The September House, which is really good as well. But thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Offer up any feedback below, and I'll always respond to that. But until the next video, guys, happy reading.